So welcome to the first of the winter Sharkopods. I'm just going to try and blitz my way through some of the clubs now, and I'll get to some more later when I get some time. I'm going to start with Ajax, so some interesting youngsters lined up. They're looking at L.A. Elmkes, who's an 18-year-old from Hoffenheim, his agent, hawking him around at the moment. Manchester City have taken a look. And Ajax are considering a bid in January. They'd also like to do a deal for Moise Kean, but I don't think that'll be possible. However, young Mexican left winger who Liverpool have shown a lot of interest in, called Diego Lainez, will probably make the move to Ajax in the coming January window, I would think. So Arsenal in a peculiar position at the moment. They really need a right winger. They're going to need a central midfield player when Ramsey goes, and they will need a new centre-back, although they have plenty on the books, but none are really working out. Not too far into the future, they will also need a goalkeeper and a left-back. They have looked at Keylor Navas, but he doesn't want to sit on the bench, which will make it difficult. Radislav Majekic is possibly a target, but I'm not so sure work permit will be easy. At centre-back, Declan Rice has been of interest, but he's not first pick material yet. The same with Reece Oxford. He's liked, but he's seen as immature and not ready. In midfield, they have looked at Weigl. There is interest. It's back. But with Torreira at the club, it would mean a change of formation to give him regular game time. Left back, they did look at Philippe Lewis, who was at Chelsea at one time. He's available. He's no longer first pick at Atletico. But even though his contract runs out in the summer, his price is really pretty high. So, I can't see that happening either. Other midfield options, Zielinski, seen as a good replacement, but Napoli will look to give him a new contract and block any move for the player. Ever Beniga, well, I think this is an old Arsene Wenger target, actually. And it's looking likely that they will try and push ahead and get something done there. It's a bit of an odd decision, and I understand not everybody at the club is convinced by the idea of taking someone on who's 30, 31, whatever he is now. And other people want to push for the likes of Hector Herrera, who's a little younger, and certainly Pablo Fornals has been considered. So there are options there. Almiron was, nailed down to sign, so everyone told me, but I don't see that happening at all. I don't see where he'd fit in if Ozil were to leave, perhaps. On the right wing, the clear target is Nicolas Pepe. It's a position they're short in. They were looking at the likes of Martin Pavon in the summer. Could return for Pavon still. I think that's unlikely. Arsenal were at a game against Rennes in August. Pepe was one of the players watched.
The Mysterons, sworn enemies of Earth, possessing the ability to recreate an exact likeness of an object or person. But first, they must destroy. Leading the fight, one man fate has made indestructible. His name, Captain Scarlet.
This is the voice of the Mysterons. We know that you can hear us, Earthmen. You attacked our complex on Mars, and you will pay a heavy price. Our next act of retaliation will be to destroy the city of London. Do you hear, Earthmen? We will destroy the city of London.
Christian Pavon is an old Arsene Wenger target. There is interest in Barcelona from PSG and from another English side, but they've already been told that when he moves it will be to Barcelona. So I suspect he'll stay in South America until the option arises. Roma have Cengiz Under, a Turkish child there at the club. Well thought of by lots of people, but I'm not so sure he'd be able to adapt quite so quickly. The asking price is high. He's a right winger, and Roma need another right winger. They certainly don't want to be getting one unless they have to. So a number of other sides have actually already met with Monchi, and in Milan a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Borussia Dortmund, who was speaking to him about another player, did raise the whole situation with Unger and see if something could be done. Bayern Munich has shown a little interest. He's on a list of 4 wingers they need to consider in order to fill 2 positions. So, there's every chance he could move, but I'm not so sure it will be to Arsenal. Spurs, Manchester City took a look, but neither see value in the price being asked. So, to Spain, Atletico Madrid, they are after a central midfield player. They did speak to Chelsea about one player. I think that's unlikely. Tonali is someone who really interests them. Milinkovic-Savic, they've tried very hard to get a deal, but I don't think he's going to leave Italy. And Herrera is the other player they've spoken to the club about. I doubt something's going to happen there in the short term. They can wait till the summer. They have a couple of players who might well leave in January, but they're not in any rush. I think Ritsu Doan will probably join them, and he's a youngster and he's really one for the future. Bayer Leverkusen has spoken to Chelsea about taking a youngster on loan next season. He's a popular player, so I don't think he'll be going there. They've looked at Bergwijn from PSV. It looks unlikely. Their main priority is sorting out the coaching situation at the moment, and they're going to do some rework on their scouting network, I understand. Benfica have Ruben Dias, who's attracting a lot of attention, which may see him leave in January if a large enough offer is made. They do need the money at the moment. They've been trying to strike a deal for Zadas, but I expect him to complete his move to Monaco once he's resolved his metatarsal problem, probably next summer. Dortmund have been looking at a lot of younger players from the English leagues. They've spoken to Chelsea about 3 players. They're also showing an interest in Declan Rice, Phil Foden. They're showing an interest in... who's the young lad? I forgot his name. Bobby Duncan. That's another one they've shown an interest in. Plus, they're looking at the likes of the up-and-coming players like Piatek. Maxi Lopez is still seen as actually sort of reliable fill-in option. It's a young Everton kiddie called Anthony Gordon, who's a forward they're quite keen on. They've taken up their option already, so it's a, I believe the term is done deal for Paco Alsassa. Dani Olmo, Dinamo Zagreb are happy to profiteer. There's lots of interest in him. Dortmund, Palace, I think. Milan in particular as well. They have made an inquiry about Thorgan Hazard. They will potentially look to Zaha as an option, although there's a very large offer's already been made for him, as a Pulisic replacement should he leave. Jonathan Bamba is another that they like, but they know they can't get him easily. David Neres another. And again, as I said, they've spoken to Roma about Sengizunda. So they've got a few central midfield ideas. They did talk to Ajax about Frankie de Jong. He's going elsewhere, so that doesn't really matter. Matt O'Reilly is another youngster they've looked at. And Adam Mrazek is a right-sided midfield player. They've looked at some centre-backs, but I don't think it's an immediate problem, but it will be in the summer. They're one of the many clubs looking at Tobido as well, so we'll see what happens there. Militao's been looked at by them, but he is way overpriced. Borussia Mönchengladbach are after a centre-back. They've been knocking on the doors of Chelsea and West Ham. Reece Oxford is seen as a good option to them. Money is a bit of an issue at the moment, but they will continue to look. So Bournemouth are not a particularly attractive club, which makes it difficult to recruit players. Kenny Lalas remains of interest to them. They have spoken to Chelsea about a player, but that isn't going to happen. And there might be some consideration to take Solanke from Liverpool on some sort of loan-to-buy deal. Solanke left Chelsea largely because he didn't want to go on loan. It's really unclear what's going to happen to him going forward with Liverpool. They're sort of stuck with him at the moment, not using him. So, there will be plenty of takers, the likes of Huddersfield and Bournemouth, if the player would agree to a loan. So Brighton, they need to sort out this director of football role. There's been all this stuff with Dan Ashworth, and I think something will happen there. In terms of players, they're really keen on Francois Camano, but are going to face a real battle to get him to move. Reece James remains of interest. James McCarthy might be a viable loan option for them because they do need a central midfield player, and they have been looking at Philip Billing as another option. But, McCarthy's a high risk. He's got no game experience for quite a long time now, and I'm not sure Brighton will be willing to go down that road. So, Crystal Palace. They're in real need of a striker and other various forwards. Wide player if Zaha leaves, and there is a good chance he will. Danny Olmo has been looked at. He's playing for Dynamo Zagreb at the moment. I think he came out of Barcelona originally. They are more than happy to profiteer. There's a lot of interest in him. But I do not think there's any chance of him moving to Crystal Palace. Edin Dzeko, I think cost and age would get to that one. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Danny Welbeck, high risk. I think you'd worry very much about how fit he can stay. They've spoken to Chelsea. Another club speaking to Chelsea about players. Ismail Assar, Rennes are not going to want to sell, and he is going to have far better options than Crystal Palace. Jonathan Bamba, another player who's doing really well in France this season. His club will fight to keep him. It would take a lot of money, and it would be a bold move for the player to move to Crystal Palace. Gabriel Barbosa, so bit of an enigma still. Kia has been talking to a number of clubs. Been discussions between Santos and Inter. He's spoken in England to West Ham and Crystal Palace. He's also spoken with Marseille about the availability of the player. The player is unconvincing when not in his home country, is about all I can say. The issue's been raised by another advisor to a third party in this country, which is very, very difficult to unravel some of the money involved with his representation and agents. It's not as clear as perhaps it should be. Something, oddly enough, UEFA are trying to ban. There's a meeting in Geneva at Neon on 15th and 16th of January, and it's on the list. There's a whole issue surrounding agents. So again, I don't see it happening there. But they will keep looking, and something will happen.
Just for fun, and once again they told us that they'll never use the bomb.
So on to Everton. They're in real need of a striker, they're in need of a right winger. And if they do lose Gueye from midfield in the summer, they will need a central midfield player as well. They've looked at Jesus Corona. He is a right winger. He would be a really good option, but I don't see anything happening. Lozano is obviously a player that Brands knows well, but the problem's always going to be that if you take on a senior person from a club, the club will not be happy if you then try and cherry pick players from them. They don't really want to sell him. If they do sell him, it'll be a higher price than I would think Everton can afford at this time. Hakim Ziyech has been looked at by Everton. He's a left winger. Everton do not need any more left wingers. They've been stockpiling them. He is immature. He's trouble. He comes with baggage. And his agent scoffed at the idea of interest from Everton and suggested he would go to Arsenal or Liverpool should he decide to move to England. Declan Rice was looked at as centre-back. There seems to be some sustained interest there. You know, they have a centre-back on loan at the moment, so perhaps they're looking towards the summer, I don't know. In central midfield, if Gueye leaves, Doucouré of Watford will become of interest. Everton have watched him on a couple of occasions already, I understand, and there is interest in both those players from PSG, so something can happen there. Watford have already lined up a replacement, so they're going to be more than happy. In terms of the striker role, I can't help a great deal. Salah has been looked at on a number of occasions. He would be a great option, but I don't believe there's any money on the table. There is interest in from elsewhere in the Premier League, actually, you know, with the likes of Cardiff, but he'd be nuts to go there. Jean-Kevin Augusta, RBL, Leipzig will be more, they're sick of the sight of him, they want him out. He's been nothing but trouble since he's been there, and this season have absolutely had enough with him. Everton, if they could involve Lookman in a deal, could do something if they want to. So they need to go and talk to them if they are interested. So that's about it. In terms of outgoings, well, maybe retirement for Jagielka at some point. Morales, you'd expect to go at some point. Oman Ayasti, he will go in January, almost certainly. Might need to be a loan initially. McCarthy has no match fitness. He needs to get it. It'll be difficult to find Premier League clubs willing to take the risk, but they might get someone. Gueye, as I said, PSG is keen. Tosin is better than Everton think he is. He's not getting a run of games. Maybe he'll look for a loan. Certainly a possibility, but I would expect him to stay to the summer now, even if Everton do get a striker.
Like man, it's a psych out. See the pleasure lovers who live it like it is, where it's at. Make the scene with the rebels. The hippies who think that flower power rules over everything and everybody. Psych out! Dick Clark presents the hallucinatory world of the flower children as they parade up and down the streets of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district. Psych Out was filmed entirely on location in hippie heaven. See the mind blowers in action. Watch the psychedelic dropouts as they psych out. Psych out! Psych out! You'll listen to the sound of green with the seeds in the strawberry alarm clock. Taste a moment of madness when you experience a Psych Out with Susan Strasberg and Dean Stockwell in psychedelic color from American International. Psych Out. Psych Out.
So just a quick update on Fiorentina, as I spoke to somebody from there earlier. They do still have an interest in Sander Berg, but his reputation is growing, as is his price, so I don't see anything happening there. They would be open to taking Laszlo Markovic from Liverpool. His contract runs out in the summer. I think if Liverpool freed him in January and somebody covered the administration costs, it would be a good buy for them. Their option to him is Nicola Sanson. It'd be more expensive. They are interested in Gabbiadini as a striker, and they are interested in Viviano as a goalkeeper. I think he was at Arsenal for a little while. He's in Portugal, I think, at the moment. I think perhaps with Sporting. But he wants to return to Italy. He's, 33, 34, 35 now. And he'd be a good option as a second choice. So Fulham sat down with Chelsea not too long ago, and they made inquiries about 4 players as to their availability. One's clearly not an option. 2 are perhaps options, and the other would be about for a loan for next season. Whether anything happens in January or not, I don't know. They do have an interest in John Joe Shelvey. John Joe's at Newcastle and may not fancy the move to Fulham, or perhaps he wants to go back to London and thinks Claudio Ranieri can save the day there. There are another club also interested in Salah. Again, I think it is unlikely he'd want to move there. If Everton actually were to go back for him, I think something can definitely be done without any doubts at all. Well, really quick one. Huddersfield needs goals without any doubt at all. Solanke might be a viable option for them. He'd get a lot of first team games in the Premier League. Perhaps Liverpool would be open to sending him on loan there if the player accepts it. Another option, and I believe there's a little bit of interest in Uwaniase of Everton, so we can see there. I'm not sure of anything firm or any offers, but I think there is some interest. Just a quickie on Lazio. If they were to lose Milinkovic-Savic, they will look to Remo Frula and Denis Suarez. Suarez is concerned about a lack of game time there apparently, but he is potentially available. So Fulham sat down with Chelsea not too long ago, and they made inquiries about 4 players as to their availability. One's clearly not an option. 2 are perhaps options, and the other would be about for a loan for next season. Whether anything happens in January or not, I don't know. They do have an interest in John Joe Shelvey. John Joe's at Newcastle and may not fancy the move to Fulham, or perhaps he wants to go back to London and thinks Claudio Ranieri can save the day there. There are another club also interested in Salah. Again, I think it is unlikely he'd want to move there. If Everton actually were to go back for him, I think something can definitely be done without any doubts at all. Well, really quick one. Huddersfield needs goals without any doubt at all. Solanke might be a viable option for them. He'd get a lot of first team games in the Premier League. Perhaps Liverpool would be open to sending him on loan there if the player accepts it. Another option, and I believe there's a little bit of interest in Uwaniase of Everton, so we can see there. I'm not sure of anything firm or any offers, but I think there is some interest. Just a quickie on Lazio. If they were to lose Milinkovic-Savic, they will look to Remo Frula and Denis Suarez. Suarez is concerned about a lack of game time there apparently, but he is potentially available. Liverpool, I'm not so sure too much will happen in January. They do need a goalkeeper at some point. Mignolet's, a decent backup, but the problem is that he wants to be a first-team player. They've looked at a couple of young centre-backs in Ruben Dias. It's a Benfica centre-back. There seems to be a lot of interest in him. They watched him in a national game against Croatia in September, and they popped along to see him play in the league now and again. Delphi, who is at Middlesbrough, they have a declared interest. They've spoken with Middlesbrough. They need to, like many other clubs, bolster the homegrown quota, so he might be a very good option. In midfield, Ramsey was looked at but isn't going to happen. They are keen on Nicola Barella, and he's been watched a couple of times recently by them. Again, not for the first time either. He is priced at the very high end of his market value, which isn't good. He's made it clear he wants to be a start. His preference is very much to stay in Italy. So unless they were to move on Nobby Keita, it's hard to see where he'd fit in to me. He's certainly not going to just sit round and do nothing. What they do need, though, is a left-sided midfield player. Diego Laxalt only moved in the summer. He's not going to be available easily, but Liverpool have gone and looked at him yet again. Milan don't want to sell, but Liverpool obviously know that Milan do need funds, so perhaps they could do something. The young Mexican left winger, very tiny little chap, looks like Charlie Drake, Diego Lainez. He's probably going to go to Ajax, so I think that'll be the end of any Liverpool interest in them. In terms of people leaving, Markovic, the club just seem to screw up over and over. They need to just cut the ties, let him go. Milner, perhaps in the summer, will move on. Perhaps he could go back to Leeds. I don't know. I think that might be a very viable option. Certainly something that would interest him. I think he's got to make his mind up. They need to decide what to do. Galatasaray are quite keen on him. Something needs to be done. Few players could go on loan. And I would expect Merino to go in the summer. And Liverpool then to start looking possibly at the left-back options they've got in the younger sides. Else, they could look elsewhere. Not sure it's a priority. I think unless it's on the absolute fringes, Liverpool might not want to disturb the good season they're having by doing anything in January. So Lyon are not looking to make too many sales. They will try and maintain only one major sale a year. I suspect this year might see two go. I can see Houssamayor going, and I can see Fekir going, and they're sort of done a bit with them both at the moment. You know, they're finding they're being distracted by interest from elsewhere. They're another side that looked at Ruben Dias. I don't think anything will happen there. Again, they're another side that looks at Todibo. Maybe something's possible there. Diego Lainez, the Mexican kiddie. Again, it's been of interest, but I suspect he'll end up at Ajax. Nicolas Pepe, but he is going to have far better options to him. And again, Jonathan Bamba's been of interest to them. So they're looking at the upper end of the market. They're not easy to deal with at the best of times, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Again, I'm not so sure too much will happen in January.
Meet their end. Looking at the ashen color of the last remains of our love. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Now my thoughts return of revelry, distorted, they still yearn for the time before our lifeline had to die, for the time before the shame, not knowing why. Oh no, no, oh no. Fortune's wheel, all in my life. Not care how I feel for the consummated emasculation of the last remains of our love.
Another club where I don't think too much will happen in January is Manchester City. I think in terms of outgoings, Brahim Diaz, I would say, is probably another done deal now. Feeling is that it's all been agreed. In the summer, maybe David Silva might be available. And I think the plan was to perhaps go to Las Palmas in 2019. or in 2020 when his contract expires. But they're going to need to start looking for a replacement. They're going to be buying at the higher end of the market where people will not be satisfied sitting on the bench. Again, Fernandinho, probably the summer he'll go, and again, they're already looking for a replacement for him. So of course, you don't stop looking for players, even though the transfer window is not open, even though there's no plan. They've looked at Wan-Bissaka of Crystal Palace. They don't want to sell him, and I don't think he'd move. It makes no sense to move unless you've got a guarantee of game time, and Manny's not going to get that at Crystal Palace. Junior Firpo's been of interest. He's long-term Arsene Wenger-liked player, but Wenger did nothing about signing him. I suspect he won't end up at Manchester City, and I understand Real Madrid will make an offer for him in January. Ozan Kabak signed a new contract with Galatasaray, so any immediate moves unlikely. But that may just have been to boost his value. Manchester City are quite clean. Leipzig, Arsenal, Fortuna Düsseldorf, Manchester United, and particularly Inter Milan have been, looking at him. So, and that's really what led to the new contract. Ruben Neves, he's a player they've been keen on for a while, and they could look to him. They could actually look to striking a deal which would, you'd need to probably upset the player to some extent to get him interested. But with Fernandinho going, he does provide a very good option. I think in the summer they will make a move for him. Julian Weigl, price is going to be an issue. Dortmund may sell in January. It's not clear at the moment. Ndebele, seen by Guardiola as a Yaya Toure replacement, suit Manchester City for years to come. The inquiry was made with Lyon, and they said, well, give us 10 times what we paid for him in the summer, which was 8 million euros, and you can have him. Well, it's an enormous step up. It's an outrageous price, so I think it's pretty unlikely. Elmkeys, again, the Hoffenheim youngster, has been looked at. Barnett's been hawking him around. Frankie de Jong, Manchester City, very, very keen, and it's been increasing interest, but he is almost certainly going somewhere else. He's agreed a deal with Barcelona. They're working on finances at the moment still, about how much will be paid and particularly when it will be paid. So I think that's very unlikely. Ayor, Manchester City approached Lyon about him and made clear that, only one key player will be allowed to leave this summer. As I said, it might be two, we'll see. They do see Isco as a potential David Silva replacement. João Felix, Benfica will look to hold on to him, give him a new contract. And a move to Manchester City won't get him game time. Lucas Paqueta, again, seen as a potential David Silva replacement, but again, would he get game time? We'd have to wait and see. If Mbappe were to be available, he was originally considered as an alternative to Mahrez, but I think they would push for him. They would be interested. There's no guarantee that's going to be the case.
Flake, flake, to the flake, to the flake, 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 to the flake, to the flake, flake, flake.
Everybody from miles around comes out dancing when they hear this sound. Crazy new dance is the talk of the town. It's the flake. You get Peggy and I'll get Sue. We'll head on down to Malibu. All our friends will be there too. To the flake. Surf, sand, sun and fun makes the day at Malibu run. Stop, listen when you hear that beat. It's easy to do, just move your feet. Shooting the curl till the surf's all gone. Dance in the sand with your baggies on. Grab yourself a chick and swing
flake, 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 to the flake, to the flake, flake, flake.
So just to touch on Manchester United, they remain interested in Milenkovic as a centre-back. He's financially viable. He's a target from Mourinho's time at Chelsea. But his price is on the rise due to interest from elsewhere. So something could be done, but it'll need to be done quickly, I think. And, there's not going to be much else, I wouldn't have thought. Douglas Costa is an option, but Juventus would need to bring somebody in to replace him. And even though they're happy to make some money on him and get rid of him, they would probably prefer the summer than to now. The rest of it's really back burner stuff now. This manager situation or coach situation needs to be fixed. What they're doing at the moment is not helping anybody really. So we'll see what happens. So quickly, Marseille, they're not sure they will do much in January, but they might be interested in Alberto Moreno from Liverpool. Perhaps not January, perhaps in the summer, but they have tentatively inquired about him. Benatia is wanted back at Marseille and is open to return. Something should be possible there. Again, Jean-Claire Todibo is very much of interest, but that might go if Benatia seals his return. There is interest in a player from Chelsea. There's interest in Moise Kean from Juve. And Joseph Martinez is another striker option they've been looking at. But right now they're talking to clubs all the time. They're in a position where they might lose their lady negotiator. She's got an offer from Barcelona and she might be interested in taking that up, or she might decide to retire. There's also an Italian club very keen on her going there, so we'll have to see what happens. But that would make it difficult for them in some places because of the relationships with other clubs. Monaco's in a real mess at the moment. The club is up for sale. We're waiting to see what will happen though, actually. There might be some news mid-January. They have looked at João Felix. Benfica are not interested in a deal for him. Certainly not to Monaco. Again, the Mexican kiddie has been of interest in Lenez, but I expect him to go to Ajax. Zadas is one player who I would expect to confirm the move. I think it'll be in the summer. He failed a medical last summer. He's had a metatarsal problem, but should still go ahead if he can prove his fitness. Andreas Pereira, seen as an option by them. Again, there's a Chelsea player they've spoken to the club about. Actually, there's two they've spoken to the club about. So, and something might be possible there in terms of a permanent transfer. They're also quite keen on Moussa Dembele should he become available. Not so sure he will be soon. In terms of outgoings, Falcao and Yuri Tillmans, he can be considered to be available again. We'll see where the interest comes from. There is actually some from Italy, so we'll see what happens. So Newcastle, it's another club that it's not only up for sale, actually a takeover is now quite close. We'll see the return to English football of Peter Kenyon, I think. So it's really unclear what will happen, to be honest. It's unclear to me if Benitez will stay that much longer, or he might just draw a line across. If that's the case, they might look to Brendan Rodgers. We'll have to wait and see. So in terms of players they've looked at and can afford or can't afford, I don't know. Francois Camano, again, the left winger, has been of interest. Gary Rodriguez is seen as an option to him. And again, Jonathan Bamba. Bamba's going to have a much higher profile soon, and I suspect would not be interested in a club like Newcastle. Alain Saint-Maxime is a Rafa favourite. He would really like to take him. I don't know if anything can be done. He would like to sign Kennedy on a permanent basis. They've certainly looked at Jetro Willems as an alternative. his name comes and goes. He was associated with Manchester United for a long time. Miguel Almiron, yes, something can be done there, and they're working on it. Jose Martinez, another possible striker options. And Tom Cairney of Fulham. It could get convoluted, and right now I think it's unlikely to happen. It's not a position they need to fill unless Shelvey were to leave. So that sort of pretty much sums up Newcastle. I have no idea what's going to happen.
In their first appearance at the Hollywood Bowl, KHJ proudly presents The Doors. Friday night, July 5th, The Doors rock the bowl. Steppenwolf. The Chambers Brothers. And The Doors happen at the Hollywood Bowl. Get your tickets now at Music City, House of Sight and Sound, all mutual agencies, and the Bowl ticket office. July 5th, KHJ opens our summer concert season with The Doors.
Nice is nice and simple. They've got players that everyone wants, but they don't want to sell in January. Adrian Tomasi might well go. He's the player Watford have lined up, should Decore leave. They do actually want a goalkeeper, and they would be open to taking Simon Mignolet from Liverpool, but that would mean Liverpool would need a replacement. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in January there, but they're keen on a goalkeeper in January. A real quickie about PSV. Richard Ledesma is a 17-year-old from Real Salt Lake in the United States. And I think the deal can be considered pretty much done, and he is going to be a really good talent going forward. It's my prediction for the future. So RBL, it's fairly straightforward. Jean-Kevin Augustin, they're sick of the sight of him. They want him gone as soon as possible. In the longer term, they're looking at players again like Tadebo's, another centre-back they're interested in. Amadou Herrera is a central midfield player. He has attracted attention from England as well. Initially, there might be some problems with a work permit, but there are a couple of English clubs who might be interested in sending Herrera on loan somewhere. Lookman of Everton remains of interest to them. If Everton want Augustin, they would want Lookman in return. Again, it's another club that has looked at Jonathan Bamba. He's having a very good season. They have shown an interest in Bobby Duncan. It's another club to have done so. And Hakan Kalaglu, I can never remember how to pronounce it. It remains of interest and is really a centre-back, a central midfield option now. He's not doing well where he is, so going forward, maybe they can do something, I don't know. But that's about it now. Terms of the sort of the half-sister club, Salzburg, they want a right winger from Chelsea. It's not going to happen, he won't be going there. Real Betis is another club which is looking for a right winger. They're interested in Nicolas Pepe, but their interest, is one of many, many clubs, so that's not going to happen either. As for Stade Rennes in France, Georges-Kevin Engadou becomes an option for them, which will please Tottenham, no doubt, but only if Sarr were to move on. There's quite a lot of interest in him, but I'm not so sure he'll move in January. The price would need to be acceptable to him as well. They're looking at Emi Martinez as a goalkeeper, and I think that can be done. Thomas Kubek is going to leave, and he'll be straight replacement. And there's serious attention, really, really serious attention being paid to one of their kiddies called Lucas Tacuna. And I think, again, it's very much one for the future, but I'm told this is another really good prospect. So keep an eye out for Lucas Tacuna. Very quick visit to Brazil. Santos want Barbosa and have made a decent offer for him. And Barbosa may see the sense in staying in Brazil where he does well.
Here's Peter and Gordon for McLean. It's McLean, the toothpaste McLean, with a new kind of taste that is wild. What a taste, what a taste.
to try a tube of McLean's, you're going to have two surprises. Number one, the way it tastes, because McLean's isn't sweet, isn't weak.
So I don't want to say too much about Schalke at the moment. They have spoken to Chelsea again about a player, and they have Bubba Rahman on loan that they would like to sign permanently. He's back and reasonably fit now. Munir, he's not good enough, but Barcelona would let him leave, of course. But their main priority is, again, sorting out this mess of a coaching situation that they've got themselves into. And it's a massive self-inflicted wound. So I don't really know what will happen in the longer term there now. So Sevilla in Spain, I can run through these fairly quickly. They have more targets than most. So Alberto Moreno is possibly a very viable option for them in the summer. Depends on what happens at Liverpool, whether a longer contract can be sorted out, but I think it's unlikely. I would say that Sergio Ramos may return there in 2 years' time after a couple of... I think he'll leave Real Madrid in the summer, and I think he'll spend a couple of years elsewhere, and then he'll return to Sevilla. Giovanni Lo Celso, not sure what's happening with him at the moment, but they are really keen. They're also really keen on Pablo Fornals, but I think that's unlikely. Vicente Ibarra. Well, Ibarra's another central midfield player. It might well be possible. He was popular a while back. It's disappeared. Nicolas Pepe looks very unlikely. I don't think there's any chance. Steven Bergwijn's exactly the same. I don't think there's any chance for a move there. Another one of these done deals, actually. João Malek agreed, loan to buy in January. That's already sorted out. They did make an approach for Maxi Lomez and were told he was happy at Celta Vigo, and Joseph Martinez said he was happy at Atlanta, so he's another one who might turn up in Europe soon, but it won't be at Sevilla.
Ask me how I've become mad now. There was a day I had so much say. World at my feet, life seemed to be sweet. I was admired, but I was so tired. Both of the time lying in land. Now I just am. Now I just Things went okay, and then one day, pow, I can expound with the new words found. If reason's gone, then how do I live on? Because I know which way I must go. Where can I go now that I know time has gone by? Isn't that the madman running through the fields? Isn't that the madman? Wonder how he feels. You look at me, what do you see now? Is it so bad, or am I just sad?
Isn't that the madman running through the fields? Isn't that the madman? Wonder how he feels.
Still trying to get something out of Southampton in terms of their intentions. Again, you know, they've spoken to Chelsea about some of the surplus players they have, but I don't think anything will come of it. At centre-back, Raphael Toloi has been looked at. They are quite keen on him. They've made inquiry about Eden Zeko as a forward as well. I think they'll take on Danny Ings in the summer. It's not an option to buy. They had a loan to buy. So, you know, but they do need goals, and they've looked at Shoya Nakayima. I don't know whether he'd be a solution for him, but we'll see what happens with the management situation now and just see where it goes. Saint-Etienne, very quickly, is the other outlet possibly for Georges Kevin N'Koudou. If they're not priced out of a move. They don't have much money, but they have shown an interest in him. So Spurs quickly. Again, they're in a bit of a mess. They're continuing to look at players. There's a lot of players they looked at in the summer and they didn't do anything, of course. But you now start looking at the outgoings and you see, well, Alderweireld in the summer might well go. Dembele, China beckons for him. Roma might be an option. Georges Kevin N'Koudou, they want him gone as soon as possible. Fernando Llorente, well, he'll leave in the summer. Wanyama, well, he doesn't play. He has no future at Spurs. They'll let him go. Victor Janssen, Nikola Vlasic will look to stay in Russia. Fernando Llorente, I've just mentioned him, so he's only going to leave once. And I think Michel Vorm will probably move on as well. So they have continued to look at players. They have major financial issues, not only having to pay for the new ground, but it's costing them crippling amounts of money with nothing happening at the moment, and probably late February before they play their first home game there. So with their concern about Alderweireld that they won't get as much money as they wanted, they should have sold him in the summer, lesson learned. They have looked at Nathan Ake of Bournemouth. I think it's probably unlikely, but it is possible. They've certainly looked at another centre-back option in Joachim Andersen. Ndebele, I was told back in January that one senior Arsenal scout, but he'd been watched several times by Arsenal and Spurs and both were keen. Since then, Arsenal turned elsewhere, picked up somebody else. Lyon took up their option to buy, but said they'll profiteer if you offer them 10 times the money. That will cut Spurs out of it completely. So we can forget that. At left back, Wan-Bissaka is, again, a Crystal Palace player, has been looked at. I don't think anything will happen there. They remain keen on Adrien Rabiot, but he's going to end up elsewhere. He won't be moving to Spurs, I don't think. Again, Frankie de Jong was a player they were interested in. He's going elsewhere. Hector Herrera, they had the opportunity to do something a couple of months ago and don't appear to have done it yet. So their attention has turned to Andre Gomez, a Barcelona player who's on loan at the moment. He's at Everton. Everton are going to want to try and keep him. Spurs are a more attractive option. So he has to probably think about it in the summer. Cengiz Under, moves unlikely. Yuri Tillmans, they could return with an offer if Rabiot and de Jong are off the table. Possibility, but they haven't done so just yet. Amadou Diawara, natural replacement for Dembele, but I doubt Napoli will be open to selling him. Sander Berg would be a great buy, but tension from elsewhere is ramping up. Bergwijn's been looked at, they're keen. Don't see anything happening in the short term. They still, for reasons well beyond me, have an interest in Joel Asoro. He's playing for Swansea in Championship, I think, at the moment. He's seen as a Fernando Llorente replacement, but to be honest, he'd be a reserve team player at best, as far as I can tell. So it seems pretty dumb. They do need to find a striker, though. They do need a backup for Kane. So, maybe they'll be pushing for a striker in January. I don't know. It probably depends on the outgoings as well and the ramping up debts. Valencia will look to try and do something, largely unclear what. They want a central midfield player. They are interested in Denis Suarez of Barcelona. It's surprising because they've actually already agreed to loan Murillo to Barcelona, and would have thought they might have been able to tie the two up there, at least get a loan to the end of the summer. So that's another one of the done deals, Murillo. Andreas Pereira is another option that they see. They will probably lose Pacini back to Fiorentina. If Fiorentina can come up with the money, he wants to go back, that's for sure.
Sometimes I feel just solo and everything is troubling me. I can't seem to find a place to turn, can't seem to find any place to go. Once in a while I meet a few people, instead of acting very nice, they try to give me some advice, or maybe how to act, or maybe how to walk, or maybe how to talk. They think they know where it's at, they think they can make a mark. People always tell me how to act, don't want to hear from them. Once in a while I meet a new girl, she looks so fine, I make my bed, I try my line, she looks at me and says, girl says, I can't help her. The girl says, she can't be teased by me. She says she can't be played by me. The girl tries to tell me how I should act. Tell me how I should behave. Don't wanna hear it, girl.
So Watford, assuming Decore goes, and I think there's every chance he will, he's going to end up either Everton or perhaps PSG. Adrian Tamizi's sort of, it's not a done deal yet because it's dependent upon Decore leaving, but there have been discussions and there's a tentative agreement in place. There is an option to him in Simon Zakowski. I'm not sure anything can be done there. And I'm not sure the work permit situation either. But I understand that Zakowski does remain in their thoughts. So West Ham return to, look at Barbosa. player doesn't really want the move. There's been discussion with Palace and Marseille. Santos want to buy him, and that would be by far and away the best solution for the player. Again, Munir, I don't think he's good enough, but West Ham have shown an interest in him. Valentino Lazaro, he's a right back, right wing back. West Ham have watched Hertha Berlin play, and they are keen on him. Hertha aren't keen to sell, but you could see something happening. Sami Nasri, I have no feelings about this at all, but it seems that they are going to try for a few months just to see how it goes. In terms of outgoings, well, it's the usual story. Andy Carroll, if fit, might be able to leave if somebody will take the risk. Sam Byram probably needs West Ham to help him kickstart his career elsewhere. Declan Rice doesn't sign a new contract. There are options for him. There's all sorts of little stuff going on like that, but there's nothing really that firm. They should be a reasonably attractive club. The government's gifted them a stadium. You should all go and take your seat there because I think the taxpayers paid for it. But they struggle. This sort of odd approach they have, and the owners getting involved in purchases is just not working. Just to touch on Wolfsburg, Yunus Akgun is a youngster. He's again one of these players touted for a good future. He was wanted by Roma in the summer, but they didn't believe it was the right time. Monchi says he will return for him, but Wolfsburg are keen as well. In terms of Wolverhampton Wanderers, I don't expect too much initially. They have a couple of issues they need to sort out. Jean-Claire Todibo is yet again, it's another club interested in him. I don't think anything will happen there. But much will depend on exits. It is not out of the question that Dendoncker could go. So, I appreciate I've not done most of the larger Italian clubs, the Milanese clubs, Juve. I've not done Barcelona or Real Madrid, and I will return to do those. The difficulty is that they have such vast numbers of players that they look at, and you think, well, it's hard to try and decipher what's going on there. You can talk to agents and representatives and people of clubs, and people just don't know. People don't know how to overcome this. There's a meeting in Nyon, which is Geneva, in mid-January about a bunch of other stuff, but some business will be done there. There is a fair amount of business that's already happened. Certainly, as I was saying, Murillo moving to Barcelona for 6 months to give them cover has already happened. That's a done deal, which is what everyone likes to hear. João Malak and Sevilla's another deal that's effectively, it's already agreed. Real Madrid have actually also agreed a couple of deals already. So, that will affect what else happens. Money will affect what happens. Palacios, should be done next week, I think. And we'll see what happens there about the coach.
David Brinkley is on vacation. I'm Chet Huntley, NBC News. The big rock music festival in New York State in a little helpless town called Bethel has attracted 300,000 people. Today, the management begged all others not already there, please, to turn around and go home. Most of the 300,000 are young. Many are long-haired. Some like to turn on with drugs, and there have been problems about that. And all of them, for reasons which baffle most of their elders, if not betters, are crazy enough to crowd into an area so jammed that the management has had to fly doctors in and out by helicopter. Oh yes, there was music. Bethel seemed bemused by the whole thing.
Pop music festivals have been held throughout the country for a few years, and they've become more and more popular. But no one, not even the promoters who promised this would be the biggest event ever, were ready for this. Yesterday, more than 300,000 people showed up, each to do his thing in his own way. And they camped, using what seemed like all the possible ways for camping, on Max Yeager's 650-acre farm. They promised not to bother his 350 milk cows.
Even a gathering of peace and music has its problems.
There is a food shortage, not enough sanitation facilities or water. Traffic is still absolutely impossible. By today, there were thousands of minor injuries, and doctors and nurses were flown in to help. And it rained last night. That aggravated the situation. So there are lots of complaints about poor planning, but most people don't seem too upset about such problems. For the most part, the mood here is refreshing. More than 300,000 people getting along under the common banner of peace and music and love. Lem Tucker, NBC News, at the Music Festival in upstate New York.
Real Madrid have also, I would say, Brahim Diaz is completed, and Rodrigo goes. He'd agreed to join in July 2019, but Real Madrid are trying very hard to move that forward to January to make sure they've got cover. They do need to make some holes in the team, and there is some really interesting stuff going on there at the moment, so you'll have to look out for that one next time.
There's a new sun rising up angry in the sky, and there's a new voice crying, we're not afraid to die. Let the old world make believe it's blind and deaf and dumb, but nothing can change the shape of things to come. There are changes lying ahead in every road, and there are new thoughts ready and waiting to explode. When tomorrow is today, the bells may toll for some, but nothing can change the shape of things to come. Future's coming in now, sweet and strong. Hey, now I'm gonna hold it back for long. There are new dreams crowding out old realities. There's revolution sweeping it like a fresh new breeze. Let the old